out. We have situations where we have dots or even just dashes, and then the party list group will have a very solid oval there.
So it really depends on the priorities of the voters. I mean,
I don't know what exactly is going through their mind when they fill it up this way.
And so, for example, just looking at this, where chances are the ones up there for president and vice president are fairly there.
Yes.
But it's really, we really have to wonder what would be done about
the
those
senatorial
dots.
We have some ballots where some senatorial candidates will clearly be in. Some will not be. So this is no longer overvote. This is just incorrect shading. And so the voter intends, let's say 9, but what might be counted will be just like 5.
So
that's what's happening.
So that's an even bigger, that's a further complication, because what happens when you have some within the same group?
I suppose the machine will count those that exceed the threshold, but not count those which are under the threshold. So that's some of the problems. And we don't even know what the machine will do if there are ambiguous marks, because we do have situations where, let's say in the senatorial, their ovals are on top of each other, and there's
smeared.
A smear in between the space. How will we don't know if that's counted under the ambiguous mark.
Okay, so but again, when you were actually doing the reporting of the voters' intents, you actually had the ability to clarify this with the respondent.
Yes.
To say, there's 19, which of the 12?
Yes.
But the machine will not be doing this.
Yes. Yes, we decided to do this because we decided to report the intention of the voters during the pre-election surveys, because that's important for campaign purposes and for appreciation of the will of the electorate.
Of where their opinion is at that point.
Yes, but we knew early on we will have to find out exactly to what extent the will of the electorate will be captured by the machine.
So you're actually walking through a process where the voter is asked to simulate their voting.
Short of scanning in the
where you appreciate the actual results and can verify them, and then what you report is what you verified. But this is one step further than we will all be going through at the precincts. It's either sorry na lang if you turn in the wrong thing. Now, you were saying 12%.
Yes, improper shading.
That translates to, again,
that's
extrapolating.
That's already about 4.8 million votes. Am I correct?
So, and again, these are apples and oranges figures. So the figures for, let's say, overvoting is an entirely different analysis from your figures for
improper
shading.
Although some of these can have both. They'll have overshading in one, improper shading in another race. So, but the machine will be dealing with it one race at a time.
So at 12%. Now this is in the past there was they had undertaken smaller simulations, actual simulations from mock voting to feeding it into the machines to transmission. The Comelec did this, and if I recall correctly, they had an even higher rate. They were dealing with a much smaller sample, a few dozen or 30, 40, 50 votes, if I recall correctly, and yet they did have those problems. So, in this case, this is a broader sample. Did you have any findings in terms of either segments of the population or parts of the country that had a higher incidence of overvoting or improper shading?
Well, we had no problem with the overvoting. It was not, actually we looked at it across candidates as well, and for patterns. There was no tendency to overvote a particular candidate, or is there any socio-demographic pattern to it. But in the improper shading, we found that there's a significant difference in the age groups, with the older age groups having double-digit percentages of improper shading compared to the 18 to 34. So the two lower age groups, 18 to 24, 25 to 34, had a lower incidence of improper shading. It didn't reach double digit.
But it would be improper for us at this point to figure out why, because you'd need to ask them why.
Well, yes, we would have to ask them, but I'm not even sure they're aware they're improperly shading. So if we ask them, I don't know if they could answer that. But our guess is that, you know, the younger are still used to taking exams and following instructions, and whereas the older will just assume, oh, this is, you know, they probably have this idea. They're gonna know anyway. I put a dot there. They know I wanted that. Not thinking of the context that there's a machine rather than a human being there to interpret their ballot.
Okay, we're going to return with the explainer right after this.
Tulungan ko na kayo. After filling out the ballot, lumapit lang ho sa PCOS machine. Dahil ito ang makinang bibilang ng boto natin. Ipasok lang ang ballot. Wait for a few seconds.
Ang galing!
After that, magpamarka na lang po ng indelible ink sa kanang daliri. Iba na yun!
That was another COMELEC public service announcement. Now, still with me is Pulse Asia's Ana Maria Tabunda. Now, we were talking about the question of improper shading, and we left off at looking at whether there was any particular demographic or part of the country where there was a higher incidence of this. Now, you were telling us it was higher among
the older age
groups than younger. And here we'll just run through some of the regions where you felt where your findings were that the incidence of improper shading was higher. Region 1, Region 2, Region 3 and 4, Region 5, 6, 7, 8, and Region 12. Now, some of these are actually what they consider vote-rich regions.
Yes.
Now, do we have any idea why in these regions it's a little higher than in others?
I have no idea. I can explain. I can guess, make guesses about the age groups, but I can't make guesses about the regions because Region 4A, I mean, why not NCR as well? Because these two tend to vote, have similar voter preferences, but it's not coming out. So I think, but this is something that can be...
and you're talking about double-digit...
improper shading, yeah. Double-digit percentages for improper shading.
So in the neighborhoods of your overall of 12% or even higher?
Some of them even higher.
Okay, and again, to remind our viewers, if you were to extrapolate what this 12% of the voters base is
about 4.8 million votes. Yes.
And it could be based on, again, if you were to look at the data even more, it might have a greater impact in some regions than
Visayas,
others.
all of Visayas is 6, 7, 8, all of it. But it's something that we think can be addressed by media, by COMELEC, by the candidates themselves, by emphasizing how to vote, really giving voter education, giving the voters a lot of help. I guess the ad, I don't know how long the COMELEC ad has been running regarding the shading. I guess it has to be
And again, let's give our viewers a real idea. Based on these actual filled out sample ballots, what they better avoid and what they better be careful not to do.
Well, I have here 2 party list groups.
Okay, so
That's
make sure you
overvote.
only vote for one party list.
Yes.
One president, one vice president, and be very careful about the number of senators you vote for.
It can be 12 or less. Can be less, but not
more.
Not more. And here we have, if you look at this, you can see that it's undershaded for senators, definitely, even for vice. But look at the party list.
No, that's a good shade.
That's a good shade.
That's a good shade.
That could be captured by the 50% threshold, but not the senatorial. So these are just some of the examples. We have other examples where they really cross, but there was no time to look
Were
for
you
the
timing people when they were doing this?
Yes, we timed only for the